Hello, hello, hello. Oh, I think we are live. Yes, we are. I'm just checking to see that you will be able to see me when I go over to my other side of the island. All right, yes, we're live. Okay. Okay, here we go. Welcome. It is Thursday, 11:30. This is my new time that I'm going to be sticking with. Thursday, 11:30 a.m. We are live, and I'm here today with a little cooking demo for you guys and an interesting conversation about vegetarianism, veganism, and meat eaterism. Yes, I did just make up a new word. But in the post that I talked about for this topic, I said, can't we all just get along? Why is it that it's such a hot topic? It gets people really stirred up. Well, I feel like before we get into this, there's a few caveats that we need to state. There's probably a lot, but most importantly, what I want to say is that there are people who make choices for their diet or their lifestyle that's based on their principles, their morality, their religion, and understandably that's close to their heart, and they're going to be passionate about it, and they need to be respected for that, just like we all want to have respect, right, for our choices. We all have the freedom to choose what we want to do. And so with that said, I just want to make sure that you guys know anything that I say about diet and nutrition should be taken knowing that I respect anybody's choice to eat any way they want when it's based on their principles and something that's closely connected to their heart. That said, there's also a lot of people who are making choices because they heard it was the healthiest choice, because they think it's the healthiest choice, and unfortunately, there's a lot of misleading information out there. And so we're going to talk about a little bit of that. And last thing I want to say before we get into this conversation, this is not a political conversation. We're not going to get into politics. We're not going to talk much about global warming, although we'll just touch on it. But this is about eating healthy food and feeling amazing. A lot of people will ask me if I myself am a vegetarian or a vegan. They ask me that because I'm constantly talking about eating more plants, eating a huge variety of plants and veggies. The latest science in gut health tells us that the best predictor of a healthy gut is a variety of plants and vegetables, and we do not get enough variety in our diet. So I'm constantly talking about and encouraging you guys to eat more plants, more vegetables, introducing your kids to it early on. And so that's the reason why I do that. And oftentimes I also will take a vegetarian or a vegan dish to a get together, and so people will always ask me, are you vegetarian? Are you vegan? And so I will tell you the answer to that towards the end of this video. Right now, I want to get started with the cooking. I'm going to show you what I'm doing as I'm doing it, but if you've ever cooked on an electric stove or even this kind of type of plate, what is this called, a hot plate, it takes forever to warm up. So I just want to make sure I get this going so that we can see the finished product by the end of the video. So what I'm throwing in here, this is the basics of this dish. What you're seeing, the potato, jalapeno, and purple onions is the basics of the dish. I'm just going to get it going. Putting it in a hot pan of avocado oil. Reason why I cook with avocado oil mostly is because it is a healthy oil that has a very high smoke point. So smoke point is about how hot it can get before it oxidizes or before it burns and gets damaged. So I use avocado oil to cook more than anything. So I just want to get those things started. Just put the onions and the potatoes in there. Now let's talk. Okay, so vegetarian, vegan, meat eaterism. I want to tell you guys a little story. When I was raising my children are 17, 12, and my children are 17, 15, and 12. I've got 3 children, and when they were little, I made the decision to plant a garden. My best friend and I built above the ground, no dig gardens, a ton of them in my backyard. And we grew so many things. We grew kale, collard greens, tomatoes, snap peas, potatoes, broccoli. I had a watermelon vine. We had kumquats. Did I say tomatoes? We had so many things growing, and it was an amazing experience for myself and for my kids. It's not because I'm an amazing gardener. I'm not. I'm actually pretty bad at it. But the way that I did it made it a lot easier, and it was a great experience for my kids. Whenever we would have other kids over for play dates, I would take them out to the garden and show them what we were growing, let them pick food off the plants. And this is, I wanted to share this with you guys. This is a little project that Eden had when she was in about maybe second grade at the oldest, 7 years old, 7 or 8 years old. And so basically it was just a project for her to show, you know, something in her life that she was excited about. And so what she decided to make her project about is our garden and our lifestyle. And so we have pictures of us at the local farm here, Tanaka Family Farm. There's pictures of Eden eating flowers, edible flowers. Did you know a lot of flowers are edible? Eden grew up in the dirt. I mean, literally, this baby crawled around in the dirt and ate dirt all of her infancy, all of her life, because I was out there gardening, and that's where she wanted to be, and I know it was good for her, so I let her do it. And it's, to this day, this person is very healthy. So here she is holding one of the potatoes, a purple potato that we grew, that she harvested, and that's a picture of our actual above the ground garden. And she says, veggies growing in our garden: peas, greens, lettuces, chard, bok choy, fennel, watermelon, figs, tomatoes, guavas, kumquats. This is a no-dig garden. So early exposure is one of the reasons why my kids, all three of them, even my picky eater Israel, love raw and fresh vegetables. They grew up with me taking them to the farmer's market, and they grew up with vegetable garden. But honestly, getting our kids to love healthy, fresh vegetables is not that hard. And it's one of the things that I teach in my program, Meal Prep Fundamentals. There's ways to incorporate vegetables into our kids' food that's sneaky. And that's one of the things I teach. But also, it's just things that we might not think about. So this dish that we're making today is a dish that I have taken to different parties, and all the people love it. I've taken it to different parties specifically for my vegan friends and family, or vegetarian friends and family. I have a couple of different dishes that I will make and take to a party, but everybody loves it. Meat eaters alike, and you know, and of course the vegetarians and the vegans. And in fact, what they say is the meat eaters go, I didn't know that vegan food could be this delicious. I could eat like this every day. And so that's like success. I love it, right? So let's talk some more about these different types of eating. Isn't it true, you guys, that vegetarians can be unhealthy? Isn't it true that people who are meat eaters, or maybe call themselves what do they say? They're paleo, they're eating paleo, they're paleo lifestyle, paleo diet, or keto. Isn't it true that even people who subscribe to those diets can be unhealthy? Yes, it is. Of course it is. Any person that is subscribing to a diet, just because they're following the rules of a certain diet, they can still be very unhealthy. For instance, a vegetarian can eat potato chips and Coke every day, all day. They're not eating meat. They're still vegetarian. But of course, obviously, that's a very unhealthy diet, right? By the same token, someone who is doing a keto diet or a paleo diet can be eating a lot of protein and not in balance with a lot of vegetables. So, and they could be eating proteins that are, low quality proteins also, which is in abundance and it's cheaper, right? So I just recently heard on a podcast by the author of the book called In Defense of Meat, or In Defense of Beef. The author actually spent many years as a vegetarian, but ironically, she happens to be married to a guy who has one of the biggest cattle farms in the country. And so it was just an interesting listen. But she says, it's not the cow, it's the how. Think about that for a minute. It's not the cow, it's the how. The thing is that whether we choose to eat animal protein or not, the problem is not the actual ingredient that we're eating or that we're indulging in or that we're cooking with. As far as like if you're a meat eater, that's not the problem is not what's happening like as far as the global warming impact of cows. It's how it's done, right? Because think about this. We can be one with the earth as humans. And that can include eating animal protein. The problem is the how. The problem is not the cow, it's the how. The problem is agriculture industry, the food industry, and think about this. Yes, it's the food industry. They're growing food for us, but their concern and their goal has nothing to do with our health, right? It only has to do with, it's a business. They're making money, and that's all that's about. How much money can we make and how quickly? So think about that when you're making your choices, and think about that little expression. It's not the cow, it's the how. If you do choose to eat animal proteins, be aware of how it is produced. Now, there's a lot of people that will say global warming is due to or hugely impacted by cattle raising. That is not untrue, but guess what? Did you also know that rice farming has a huge impact on global warming as well? So that just goes back to what I just stated, which is that it's the food industry, and that's why I'm also always promoting and asking you guys and inviting you guys to come with me to the farmer's market. Farmer's market is where we're getting the products, the produce, and the meat, and the eggs that are being raised in a small family farm, that are being raised in a way that is friendly to the environment. So here's a little expression that I want you to think about, and that is when you are making choices that are best for your body and for your health, those also tend to be the choices that are best for the planet. So if we are thinking about what's best for our health and our body, as far as depending on if we decide to eat meat, and we say, well, I am going to eat meat because I need that, I need the protein, I need that rich protein for my body, for my health. Well, can you go to the local farmer's market, or can you buy from a family farm where they're using practices that are more sustainable for the earth? Can you do that? And think also about this, guys. Sorry, I need more avocado oil. Think also about this idea, which is that, nice sound, right? That the blue zones people, these are peoples who have been studied throughout the earth, who have the longest lifespan, who have the lowest incidence of chronic diseases that we see a lot, diabetes, heart disease, all of the chronic diseases that are plaguing this country, who have the happiest lives, the blue zones people. These are people who are not connected by anything but their lifestyle. And their lifestyle, including their diet, is a diet that is rich in plants. They do eat animal proteins, but they eat it in a much smaller amount. So I am not one to promote any kind of diet. You know this. If you've been following me at all, I do not promote any kind of diet. What I do promote is eating a huge variety of plants and vegetables, and shopping eating from the farmer's market. Okay, so here's what I have in here. Now let me just tell you, this is such a simple thing to do, such a simple recipe to follow, and I'll put the recipe in the comments. But once you do it once, you're never gonna have to follow the recipe again, because basically you just use whatever you have on hand, whatever vegetables you have on hand. And so the base of it, and the way this recipe came about for me, is that back in the day, years ago, 20 years ago, when we would go to my then in-laws' house for a Saturday morning breakfast, they'd make a very simple breakfast. This was a breakfast where they would take some boiled potatoes, smash them up. They weren't seasoned at all, just potato. Scoop out. Actually, they scooped out the flesh. They didn't use the skin. They smashed it up, and it was just smashed potatoes with no seasoning. They would take a bolillo, which is like a little individual loaf of bread or bun. They take the bolillo, cut it in half, scoop out some of the insides of the bread, put that potato mixture in there, cover it, smash it together, roll it in like a type of like an enchilada sauce, like a mild sauce, and then they would pan fry it and then cut it in half, and then they'd serve it with sour cream and fresh vegetables like the jalapenos and cilantro. And it was super satisfying and delicious and simple, you know? And so I just developed my own healthy version of this. And basically it's potato tacos, it's vegetarian tacos, and this dish is also vegan. So if you're curious about what the difference is between vegan and vegetarian, I know there's still some confusion about that. Vegan means no animal products whatsoever. So no eggs, no honey, nothing that an animal was used in the production of that product. For vegetarians, they may still eat cheese, they may still eat eggs, butter, you know. Vegetarians basically just don't eat meat, okay? And so, but there's healthy versions of vegetarians, there's healthy versions of vegans, there's healthy versions of meat eaters, and there's unhealthy versions. So instead of trying to label ourselves, instead of using the labels to assign some kind of moral value to ourselves, we really want to be more thinking about making the choices that are the healthiest. And what that means when I say the healthiest, it means a variety of plants. Check that out if you can see it. It's potatoes, bell peppers, jalapenos, cabbage, mushrooms. Those were the things that I had lying around. But the base of it is potatoes, onions, and jalapenos. I'm going to add some salt to the dish. This is Himalayan pink salt. I have my own mixture that I love, that I've made, which has cumin, smoked paprika, chipotle, cayenne pepper. It's pretty spicy, it's very smoky, and I use this when I'm making Latin flavored dishes. If you don't have my mixture, which of course you don't because I don't sell that one, use cumin, some cumin, and here's a nice mixture that I found at Trader Joe's that I'm liking a lot as well. It's called citrusy garlic. Here's another little note for you guys. Pay attention to the ingredient labels for everything you buy. Even spice mixtures can have unhealthy ingredients in it and you wouldn't even know it. They have, sometimes they'll put anti-caking ingredients in it just to make sure it doesn't like cake together, which is not food, but the FDA calls it safe. So here's a little note for you guys about the FDA. They will allow food companies to add certain things into the foods that have the GRAS recognition, G-R-A-S, GRAS. And that stands for generally recognized as safe. All that means is that there haven't been long-term studies or enough studies or conclusive studies to say that an ingredient in a very small amount is unsafe. But think about it. When we are eating a diet of a lot of processed foods, which is the standard American diet, are we really getting a small amount of that ingredient? If there are fillers and preservatives, which there are on every grocery store shelf item, And if they are in the foods that we're eating, and we're eating a lot of those foods, and we're not actually eating a small amount. So where it may be generally recognized as safe by the FDA, it truly is not. It truly is unhealthy. So the idea here is let's stay away from processed foods as much as we can, and let's eat whole foods. What I'm doing now is cutting up a beautiful variety of tomatoes. I could hand Israel, my 12-year-old, who's my picky one, this whole bowl of tomatoes and say, go eat this. And he's like, consider it done. He loves fresh vegetables. And he's my picky eater. Okay, so I'm just adding that to a hot pan to kind of just cook it down a little bit. I'm gonna add a little bit of salt and a little bit of my special mixture. And then of course, I make my own hot sauce too. So I'm gonna add that. This I do sell. I'm gonna add that, and that's gonna be our little sauce that we add to our tacos. So again, guys, this is a vegan dish. When I serve this dish to my family and friends, their mind is blown. They're like, wait a minute. I thought vegan food was gross. I thought vegetarian food was gross. I am a meat eater. Don't give me anything without meat. And they eat this and they go, wow, that's really good. So I encourage you guys to try this. I will share the recipe. Try this for your next Taco Tuesday or your next Meatless Monday. The idea here is, please, people, start incorporating more vegetables in your diet. You know, I never answered the question. Well, am I? Let's see, what does it say? Oh, hi, baby. The question is, am I a vegetarian or a vegan? People ask me this all the time because I will take vegan foods to a party, or, you know, I'm of course always sharing my beautiful, glorious salads online with you guys. And yeah, I eat a lot of plants, a lot of vegetables, but I'm not a vegetarian and I'm not a vegan. I actually do eat meat. I don't eat a ton of it. Typically my meal is 25% protein and the rest is vegetables. There is protein in vegetables. I'm gonna grab a spoon. There is protein in all vegetables. So, you know, if you want to be a vegetarian for your health, that's fine. But animal proteins, especially if they are responsibly raised, grass-fed beef is very healthy for you, is very good for you. And if it's not against your morals and your principles, I encourage you to be open-minded about what you're eating. And so here we go. These are the vegan tacos that I took to a party a couple of months ago where people said, I could be vegan. If this was my food, I could be vegan. This is healthy, delicious, vegan food for you. Keep an open mind, you guys. That's all I'm saying. Keep an open mind. I understand you love meat, you love the flavor of it. In modesty, everything is good. Truly. Check that out. Okay, well, I see that Raul is watching. Come get your lunch, babe. That's what we have for you guys. Eat food, not too much, mostly plants. Thank you, Delilah. I actually wrote that down to share today. I love it. Michael Pollan is one of the best writers. He's a professor and author, best-selling author, and he wrote The Omnivore's Dilemma and In Defense of Plants, and he's written a lot of different awesome books, but that's one of his best quotes. Eat food, not too much, mostly plants, and you will not go wrong. That is the truth of it. There was another one that I wanted to share today. But anyways, you guys, again, the last thing I want to share with you guys is just to think about this. Making choices that are the best for your body and for your health are most likely always going to also be best for the planet. So let's think about it. Let's do our due diligence, do our research when we make decisions. Don't just go with whatever you hear, because a lot of people will just hear somebody say something with a lot of authority and think, yep, that's right. Think about this. When you're doing research and you're looking at studies, and they seem like that might be true, do a little bit more digging, see who funded the study, because did you also, like me, grow up hearing milk It does a body good. Well, who paid for that slogan to be like inculcated in our brains and our hearts? And is it actually true? I'm not going to get into any kind of debate here, but I want you guys to just do your due diligence and think long and hard about the decisions. And the best thing, it's so simple. It's not always easy, but it's so simple. Just eat a lot of plants and vegetables with the other things you love. If you just add a bunch of vegetables to your plate, most likely you are going to, if you have weight loss goals, you'll start losing weight. Girl, guys, I'm working up a sweat in here. It's time to eat this food. Thank you guys for joining. Bye.